San Gabriel Mountains above La Crescenta, and there's Mount Lukens up there in the sky. And now we're going to make the turn and go on down towards the entrance to Deukmajian Wilderness Park. City of Glendale, even though it's La Crescenta, it's part of the city of Glendale. There's the road going on. And so up we go to get on up into the parking area. And here we are, turning on in to get ready to start our hike. And get over here to find a place to park. And once parked, we get ready to get going, but first we're going to take a look around this park area, which has been developed by the city of Glendale, but it has quite a history. Here's the old Le Mesnager barn, which at one time was actually a winery. And out on the back side of the old winery building, there's a demonstration vineyard, which a variety of types of grapes are grown. And also over on the other side of it, there's a small amphitheater where they have occasionally have nature programs. And there's also a very nice grassed area with picnic tables adjacent to it, and the San Gabriel Mountains up above the park. And then you can also branch over and take a look at some of the Verdugo Mountains over across the way. And then there's a debris basin, which is lucky to have for the residences down below, especially when they had the station fire several years ago. Then looking off in the distance out towards the ocean. A pretty setting. And then we can take a look across the lawn area here with the San Gabriel's above, and we can scan over and take a look at the San Fernando Valley off in the distance. And then of course in the foreground here is a huge mound of dirt. This has been a disposal area from clearing out debris basins in the foothills in this area, and it's getting higher and higher every time we have a major storm and a lot of debris in the debris basins. This is where it ends up. Verdugo Mountains, and then the landscape beyond. But then it's time to start our hike, so we start up the trail coming up from the parking lot, which starts heading up Dunsmore Canyon. And then we reach a kiosk which has information about the trails in the canyon and also other things to be aware of, like rattlesnakes. And from the kiosk, here's the trail that starts on up the canyon with a couple of other hikers who are working their way on up. Well, we're going to take a little detour, and rather than going up the canyon, we're going to come down it eventually, and we're going to branch off and go on up the trail. And this one is going to take us on up a side hill to get us up to the top of the ridge, and we're going to be on the what is called the Le Mesnager trail, loop trail, which follows along over the other side of the ridge and then comes back into Dunsmore Canyon and to the trail that will be coming down. And so we're going to work our way along here and branch off onto the side hill trail, which also goes up to what is called the Rim of the Valley Trail. And a little bit of the spring wildflowers are starting to show up here and there. On our way up this to get to the side hill trail, we passed by some new plantings that have been put in there since the station fire. And also we find some new looking flowers, wildflowers that is. what we have here. We have lots of them around here. Lizards all over the place. Then over to our left is what is known as the McFall oak tree. This tree was saved during the station fire by the efforts of a then assistant city manager named McFall. So he got a tree named after him. And then we kind of come on up to a trail junction with a branch that comes in from the Dunsmore Canyon Trail, which is right down this way. And then we reach that side hill. He does a pretty good job of climbing up the ridge line, to the ridge line. And there's the rooftop of the old barn building down there, and the Crescenta Valley beyond. And here we are getting up towards the upper part of this part of the trail. We'll see how we can do here. Here comes an energetic soul with a couple of dogs jogging up here. And the guy with the dogs jogged by us and continued on up the trail to get to the top. And I think we're just going to go and follow along. A lot slower, however. And as we get a little bit higher, we begin to get a pretty good view of where we are and where we've come from. There's our car in the parking lot down there. And there's that monstrous dirt pile. And there's the Verdugo Mountains, the 210 freeway, the Crescenta Valley, and lots beyond. There's the Verdugo Hills Hospital over there, looking over towards Pasadena. And down below us is the trail we've been coming up, the circuitous one that zigzagged back along the area down here to reach this one. And there's the Dunsmore Canyon Trail that will be coming on back down past the McFall tree and on back down to our starting point. But there's a bit more of this up stuff to contend with before we get to the top. And then as we get to the top, and a short trip downhill for a change to get down into the valley next to Cook's Canyon, which is over there. Now there is a trail that goes down up Cook's Canyon stream bed a ways and then cuts off and goes up the side of on the other side where you can see a couple of dogs over there. Oh, there's somebody with them. But anyway, eventually that goes on up to the service road, which travels on up to the top of Mount Lukens, where Dale and I have been before, some time back, however. And here we are coming up to another trail junction. That's the word I'm trying to find. The one goes down into Cook's Canyon and eventually ends up on the one going up the side hill there. And the other one is the Lemesnager Loop Trail, which we're going to stay on at this time. You know, I changed my mind. I think we're going to turn back around and go down into Cook's Canyon. There's a really pretty sight down there with the stream, if there is any water in it at this time of year, but it's been a pretty dry winter, so who knows. We'll go and find out. Here's the trail that leads down into Cook's Canyon. And here we can also take a look out into the distance. It's part of the San Fernando Valley. And over here is the trail we came down on. This trail down into Cook's Canyon does a little bit of switchbacking here and there, as you can see here. So it's fairly slow going. Another switchback, real quick. Another one there. And then we really get down into the canyon. Matter of fact, I can even hear some water. Don't know whether it'll pick up on the camera microphone, but there's the stream down there. Can't see water, but I can hear it. I'm glad we took this little detour. Haven't been down here in quite a while to the bottom of Cook's Canyon, but we'll see how much it's changed. Now I can really hear the water. Okay, here's the bottom of Cook's Canyon with the trail wandering on up alongside the stream. At one time there were a lot of these barriers put in the stream bed here to kind of slow it down, I guess, and create pools, but the storms after the station fire denuded this area, kind of put a nix on that, so these aren't really doing anything anymore. Hey, what do you know? There is some water in the stream. How about that? And here's the trail. It continues on up alongside the stream, which will take for a short ways, I think. And what do you know? We've even got a waterfall. And then about, I guess a couple of 100 yards following the trail alongside the creek, it suddenly decides to leave the creek bottom and start climbing up the side hill, eventually getting up to the Mount Lukens motorway. I think we'll save that for another day, however. And so I made this a turnaround point to start on back down Cook's Canyon and get back on the Le Mesnage trail. I got it right that time, I think. Not much water, but there's some. A pretty sight, I got to say. Well, here we are climbing our way up out of Cook's Canyon, and we're heading up towards the Le Mesnage trail up there on the side hill. Be there in a minute. You know, there's a lot of interpretive plaques along these trails left over from before the station fire. Now here's a interior live oak, or was, let's put it that way. So many of them burned. Okay, here we are back on the main trail, and we're going to start again back on up the Le Mesnage trail. This one continues to climb on up the side of this little draw. And you can see evidence of what the station fire did to the foliage in this canyon. Nothing left but burned stumps. But look how well things have come back since that fire, which was 3 or 4 years ago. Amazing how well nature takes care of things. And along the way, we come across a lookout point where we reach the top of the ridge and can look out on lots of stuff. Let's take a look. Wow, what a day. over Douga Mountains, back down to the barn, which has quite a history actually. It was once a barn for the winery maker Le Mesnager. Then it became a stables when they had trail horses up here before the city bought the land. And then it had a lot of, once the city did buy the land to create the park, the city spent a lot of money to strengthen it for earthquake protection. And they're hopeful to have classrooms and meeting rooms and so forth in there one day, if they are able to raise the money to do it. This also gives us a pretty good overview of Dunsmore Canyon. And there again is the trail we used to get up here. Some people on the trail down there. And a beautiful view beyond. A little bit windy today, but that's probably why the view is so nice. Fantastic. And then we reach another trail junction. This one leads us up to a short ways up to a lookout, of which there will be lots to look out at. And we're going to take it on up there. Where you can see that there's a couple of little feet up there. Estuary bones. And so here we go on up to the seats. And I think I'm going to use one of them. Give me a chance to look out and admire the view a bit. Pretty good wind. I don't know whether you can hear it or not, but it's a little blustery. But let's take a grand tour here of the whole thing. This is the first time I've tried one of these hiking trips with only video. I usually take still pictures and then add narrative to it. So we'll see how this comes out. And there's the San Fernando Valley again. Pretty nice. And then looking back towards the San Gabriels, there's the trail we came up and we'll be going out back down on. And we can look up here and see which is actually in the city of Los Angeles. It's the highest point in Los Angeles, a little over 5,000 feet. Where those heavy clump of trees is, and then it just ends. Been there, done that. This time we're just going to come back on down. Most of it's downhill from now on. Come back on down to the trail that parallels the wash area in Dunsmore Canyon with lots of debris basins, and gets us on back down all the way to the famous Red Barn. Well, we're still going up, but I believe we're getting to the high point of this trip. At least I'd be just as happy if it is. Ah yes, here we go. Sure lucked out with a beautiful, beautiful day. Oh yes, here's the high point. It's all downhill from here. Unless, of course, you opted to go on up Dunsmore Canyon, which I'm going to decline today. So we'll go on back down where the trail comes out about there. And then we'll follow the trail alongside the creek to get back to the barn. And here's some more indication of what the station fire did. And here we are partway down this trail to get us back down into Dunsmore Canyon. to this point, about halfway down, I guess. And there's, down below is where we're headed. And then it's back down to meet the trail alongside the canyon. A little careful here and there, but it's been a nice trip. And here, if you want to, you can go on up Dunsmore Canyon, but this is still part of the Mesnager Loop that we've just come down, and we'll be going down to turn back to our starting point. Every so often along this trail we run into some remnants of the old ranching and vineyard days, such as this rusty old pipe here, probably used to tap the stream when it was in its natural state. And here's the trail that crosses over the stream and begins its trek going on all the way up to Mount Lukens. The trail's a little bit lost over there on the side hill, but then it shows up again as it climbs up the hill on the other side, getting all the way up to a service road which travels the ridge line all the way over to Mount Lukens. And there it is. And here's where that trail branches off to cross the stream and go on up to Mount Lukens, which you can just barely see up here. Been there a couple of times. And here's the McFall tree that we're going to pass by as we travel down this Dunsmore Canyon trail. It's a pretty tree. It's a good thing they could save it. This one over here wasn't quite so lucky. And here's a nice resting spot underneath the oak, along with a commemorative plaque naming it the McFall Oak. Actually, the station fire was 2009, so that's 4 years ago. And then it was from the McFall tree back on down to the